The first time her phone hit the concrete, it wasn't loud, but it echoed in a way that made every head at the gas station turn, the kind of sound that carries desperation more than damage, and the biker noticed it instantly because he had trained himself over years on the road to notice small things that others ignored, especially the quiet signals people send when they don't know how to ask for help. And as he stood there beside his matte black motorcycle with the engine still ticking from heat, leather jacket heavy on his shoulders and scars heavier in his memory, he felt something tighten in his chest before he even bent down to pick it up. If you believe stories about kindness, second chances, and strangers becoming something more than strangers, then take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this only live when people believe in them. The biker's name was Daniel Cross, a man who looked like trouble to the world but had spent the last decade trying to outrun his past, and the woman was named Emily Harper, her hands shaking as she apologized too quickly, eyes darting around the parking lot as if she were afraid of being seen asking for help, and as Daniel handed the phone back, their fingers brushed for just a moment, long enough for him to notice the faint bruise on her wrist and the way she flinched as if expecting anger instead of courtesy. Emily thanked him and walked a few steps away, but not far enough to escape his awareness, and within minutes the phone slipped again, hitting the ground harder this time, the screen cracking slightly, and Daniel knew then that this wasn't clumsiness, it was intention, a quiet plea wrapped in embarrassment, and as he picked it up again, he saw fear written across her face in a way that reminded him of nights he'd spent hiding behind his bike from sirens and memories he couldn't erase. Daniel asked if she was okay without asking it out loud, his eyes doing the work, and Emily nodded too fast, the universal sign of someone who wasn't, and when she took the phone back, she lingered, as if waiting for something she didn't know how to request, and Daniel felt the old conflict rise inside him, the one between staying out of other people's problems and being the man he wished someone had been for him when he was younger. Daniel had grown up fast, raised by asphalt and adrenaline after losing his family early, finding brotherhood in engines and open highways, but also finding violence and regret, and now he lived quieter, riding alone, fixing bikes for cash, trying to be invisible, which made moments like this dangerous because they pulled him back into caring, and caring had once cost him everything. Emily finally moved toward her car, a small sedan parked too close to the building, and Daniel noticed another man sitting inside it, his posture rigid, his stare fixed on her with a possessiveness that made Daniel's instincts flare, and when Emily dropped the phone a third time near Daniel's boots, her eyes finally met his fully, not begging, not demanding, just asking without words if he would notice what everyone else pretended not to see. Daniel picked it up slowly, buying time, and as he handed it back, he positioned himself between her and the car for a few seconds longer than necessary, and in that space he saw her shoulders relax just a fraction, like someone who could finally breathe. Emily whispered nothing, said nothing, but her body told a story of control and fear, of being watched, of needing an excuse to delay getting back into that car, and Daniel felt the weight of choice settle on him heavier than any helmet he had ever worn. He asked if she needed help in the simplest way possible, offering his presence without pressure, and she hesitated, eyes flicking to the man in the car again, then down to the cracked phone, and finally she nodded once, so small it almost didn't count, and Daniel knew that nod might be the bravest thing she had done in a long time. Daniel suggested getting a coffee inside the station, a neutral place with cameras and people, and Emily agreed too quickly, as if she'd been waiting for permission, and when they walked toward the door, the man in the car stepped out, his voice sharp even without words, his presence a shadow that followed too closely, but Daniel didn't look back, he simply slowed his pace so Emily wouldn't feel alone, and in that moment she realized the biker wasn't a threat, he was a shield. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, the smell of burnt coffee and gasoline mixing into something strangely grounding, and Emily finally spoke in pieces, fragments of truth slipping out between sips of coffee she barely touched, about control disguised as care, about isolation, about fear of leaving and fear of staying, and Daniel listened without fixing, without judging, because he knew sometimes survival begins with being heard. He told her nothing about his past at first, only that he understood what it meant to feel trapped by choices made long ago, and that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is let a stranger see them at their weakest, and as the minutes passed, the tension outside grew, the man pacing, glancing in through the glass, his impatience growing, and Daniel knew the moment of decision was approaching. Emily's hand stopped shaking when Daniel offered to walk her somewhere safe, not to save her, not to fight anyone, just to stand with her while she chose herself, and tears finally spilled down her cheeks, the kind that come from relief more than sadness, and she admitted she had dropped her phone on purpose because she didn't know how else to ask for help without making things worse. Daniel called a friend, one of the few brothers he trusted who now worked in a place of safety rather than chaos, and arrangements were made quietly, carefully, without confrontation, and when Emily finally walked out of that gas station not toward the car but toward a different future, her steps were shaky but determined, and Daniel watched from beside his bike, knowing he didn't need to follow her to have changed her life. Days later, weeks later, the memory of that cracked phone stayed with him, the sound of it hitting the ground echoing in his mind as proof that people communicate pain in ways that don't always look dramatic, and months later, Daniel received a message from an unknown number, a simple thank you, a photo of a sunrise taken from a place that felt safe, and he realized that sometimes the smallest actions ripple farther than any grand gesture ever could. As this story comes close to its end, if it touched your heart even a little, if it made you believe again in noticing the quiet signals around you, please take a moment to like the video, share it, and subscribe, because engagement helps stories like this reach someone who might be dropping their phone right now hoping someone will notice. And before the final moment fades, leave a comment telling us what you felt during this story and whether you believe small kindness can change a life, because your words might be the encouragement someone else is searching for. And Daniel Cross rode on after that day not as a hero, not as a savior, but as a reminder that sometimes picking something up is really about lifting someone out of the moment they thought they were stuck in forever.